Is China supplying Russia with an army's worth of military-grade equipment under the radar from the international community? I'm going to be breaking down this story, plus Ukraine's gains in Bakhmut and in the south. I'm Paul, U.S. Army combat veteran. It's July 25th, 2023. This is your daily Ukraine update. Let's get into it. Okay, first let's take a look at the control map. There's been two major changes. First is outside of Kurdyumivka, you can see Ukrainian forces making a significant advance. This is actually reported as Russian forces conducting withdrawal, and it looks like Russian forces possibly withdrawing to defend Andriivka. Likely, though, I suspect, are probably realistically going to be looking at defending or trying to hold Ukrainian forces along this rail line canal system here. You can see there's lots of windbreaks. There's lots of canals. All obstacles are going to make it hard for attacking Ukrainian forces to cross and very favorable to defending Russian forces. And that may be where the Russian forces are presently. Obviously, the battle lines likely not actually physically between these two open fields, right? The soldiers are going to be digging in defensive positions. But you can see, again, Russia trying to hold on to Klachivka and hold on to Andriivka. Still, one of the larger gains we've seen in this offensive action to the south of Bakhmut. When we look to the south, you can see that there are limited, but not insignificant reported advances outside of Robotine. You can see Russian forces withdrawing to behind this major wooded area, probably the last step, so to speak, before Ukrainian forces potentially are taking Robotine itself. Now, what will this fighting look like? Likely it'll be pretty intense given the fact that Ukraine hasn't really been conducting flanking maneuvers or encirclements, meaning that they're probably going to have to just advance block by block through this town. The only other event worth noting is a small, relatively insignificant change in territory here as Russian forces conduct a withdrawal, exposing, again, what's largely no man's land outside of Lobkove. So when we go over to the combat map, you can see actually that about 3 hours ago, Ukrainian armed forces reporting that Russian troops are withdrawing from the area near Andriivka, under pressure from Ukrainian defense forces. As discussed, this is probably part of this sort of a controlled withdrawal effort. This map actually depicts Klachivka as almost entirely liberated, which is interesting, and that Russian forces have dug in, again, along this rail line canal. I think this is probably closer to an apt description of where Russian forces are actually located instead of what areas they can deny Ukraine, right? Remember, if you're sitting here in this forested area and you have a good field of fire, a machine gun can easily cover 1,300 meters, right? And prevent your adversary from advancing in a wide swath, especially through open terrain like this. So again, I think that's why you see some of the differences in control lines, simply reflective of the fact that there's physical human beings possessing terrain, and then there's terrain that's being covered by weapon systems and denied to the other side. But you can see, again, Russian forces conducting offensive actions primarily in the east. What's noteworthy is that other than this small salient that we saw a couple days ago emerging in the Kharkiv region, you could see that there really hasn't been much progress, if any, right? This hasn't resulted in a larger scale breakthrough. It looks like Russian forces, again, sort of shoring up their defensive positions here on the north side of this flank. But that's really about it, right? You've got a larger area listed as contested. Certainly, I have no doubt that this is the site of some fierce fighting, but it doesn't look like Russian forces have succeeded in their larger goal of breaking through Ukrainian lines. Anyway, before we get to talk, actually, let's talk first about this article, and then I'll talk about how I think it ties into Combat Vet News and one of the videos on there that we took a look at. So, according to Politico, China secretly sends enough gear to Russia to equip an army. Shipments of what they're describing as military-capable hardware expose a loophole in Western sanctions. What is the story? Well, according to customs records obtained by Politico, Russian buyers have declared orders for hundreds of thousands bulletproof vests and helmets made by the company Shanghai HW. And if you look at some of these pictures, right, this is actually, I believe, a picture from the company's main website, in which you can see a very European-looking purchaser working with a likely Chinese employee of the company, inspecting a lot of very familiar-looking gear, right? All of this gear looks very much like stuff we've seen Russian forces wear. The tan khaki plate carrier, the Grody green plate carrier. A lot of this. Very interesting to see this number, this volume of plate carriers being deployed to see Russian style plate carriers in a Chinese factory. And they point out that according to their website that's since been taken down, the caption, it says, quote, "This spring, one of our customers came to our company to confirm the style and quantity of bulletproof vest and carefully tested the quality of our vests." The manufacturer reported on its site as of March. The customer immediately directly confirmed the order, quantity of bulletproof vest, and subsequent purchase intention. Interesting. And in fact, it's not clear who the customer is. What's interesting about this is they actually interviewed the company who speculated that they didn't know who the buyer was. He could be Ukrainian, he could be Polish, he could be Russian. They don't know. Those were the three countries they named. Right? They said, according to the manufacturer, because of the war, this is a quote, "a lot of trading companies are looking for us and ask, 'Are you making this kind of vest?' We get a lot of inquiries." Right? At first, the representative said Shanghai wasn't allowed to export directly to Russia unless the Chinese military issues a certificate and it can provide documentary proof of its final customer. Yet when asked who the man in the pictures was, the representative said he wasn't even a customer. Then he said, "He is our customer," quote, "We cannot ask him directly, 'Where are you from?' But I guess maybe he is from Europe. Maybe Ukraine, maybe Poland, maybe even Russia. I'm not sure." Shortly after the call, the manufacturer took down the post featuring the mystery shopper. And we can infer some of the data about who this person is, according to Politico's reporting. According to records, Russian buyers have declared orders for hundreds of thousands of bulletproof vests made by the company, and many of the items match those listed in the company's online catalog, which we're going to take a look at in a second. Right? Despite Beijing ostensibly trying to be a neutral broker, they are in fact supplying Russia at a considerable level. For example, in addition to this protective gear that we're going to do a deep dive in here in a second, there are also large purchases of drones, which we've seen. Even if the drones aren't combat equipped or able to drop munitions, they can still direct artillery fire or be fairly easily modified to drop grenades. Thermal optic sights, of course, are extremely valuable militarily, even though they aren't ostensibly for combat purposes. There's, of course, this is often referred to as dual-use products. And it simply refers to the fact that many of these products have a legitimate civilian use in addition to being very effective for combat. So, according to one set of data, Russia's imported more than $100 million worth of drones from China this year, 30 times more than Ukraine has. And Chinese exports of ceramics, right, which you may know as ceramic body armor, has increased by 70% to more than 225 million. And shipments to Ukraine have dropped to a mere 5 million, according to publicly available customs data. Now, what I find fascinating, let's take a look at some of this gear specifically. Now, here's what's interesting and sort of confirms that this may be true, right? If you are a member of Combat Vet News, this is my premium site that functions like a Patreon, where I drop my analysis of the combat videos that YouTube won't let me show you, which is basically all combat videos. But we took a look at a Ukrainian-aligned Chechen force conducting an ambush. And what I found really bizarre is that, 6 to 8 months ago, that was reported from several sources that Russian troops actually didn't have body armor that stopped bullets. They would be stab vests, basically, thin pieces of aluminum. There were even some videos of captured Russian troops and intercepted phone calls of Russian troops saying, hey, our body armor doesn't stop anything. But in this video, those of you that are members know, the Chechen soldiers actually took the plates out of the Russian soldiers' body armor when they appeared to be intact, which seems like a bizarre call. Why would someone who's receiving Western aid need a stab-proof or low-quality body armor plate? Unless, of course, it's not a low-quality plate. Unless, of course, it's a level 3 or 4 ceramic or steel plate that is as effective as the ones being issued by NATO. That itself, I found really interesting. Anyway, if you want to support the channel, this is the best way to do it, right? I run this site, and I don't get a lot of sponsors. I don't have my videos are regularly demonetized, so I depend on you guys to help me out. So if you want access to that video, any one of these tiers will get you access, and we drop usually 1 to 2 videos a month. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about old Shanghai HW Win. This is their website, actually, of the products they manufacture. And you can see that they make level 3 and 4 hard body armor, right? Level 4 is going to stop basically a full-size rifle round. And while they're pretty heavy at clocking in at 6.5 to 9.5 pounds, but right, they're meant to take multiple armor-piercing rifle rounds, have a 5-year shelf life, and are providing a warranty. Now, you can see these look exactly like, like the kind that we were issued in Iraq and Afghanistan. In some ways, even better. They've got this much more ergonomic curve. They really have what looks like a good level of comfort in addition to protection. Looks like they have sort of an anti-spalling coating on them, with a polyester nylon cover, right? Sappy cut, multi-curve. This looks like quality stuff, right? They also sell level 3. And you can see they also, of course, are manufacturing helmets, right? This is a very familiar looking Russian style fast helmet, right? You can see a Mitch helmet, fast with the high cut, Mitch helmets, Pasget helmets, lots and lots of details, right? Rated to level 3A, weighing in at 5 pounds. This is military grade gear, right? It is not a airsoft, right? This isn't airsoft. These aren't facsimiles. You can see the variety of vests they have that they can manufacture, including not just some external wear body armor, but a lot of these look very familiar, right? We've seen this plate here, the lightweight tactical body armor, in at least several videos. We've seen full defense tactical vests like this one. And what I want to point out is these are indeed dual use, right? If you've ever seen a security guard at the U.S. or abroad, you've likely seen that often in a lot of countries, security guards, bank tellers, police forces, private security of facilities, they'll be required to wear this level of personal protection. So it does have a civilian use. And so it ostensibly is dual use stuff, right? I'm sure the Russian companies, if asked, would say, oh, it's for a security guard. Oh, it's for our Brinks truck workers. But to give you an idea of the cost of these, this is AliExpress, right? Which is a Chinese, a site where you can purchase individual sets of Chinese manufactured gear. You can see that buying a basic tactical vest with level 3 or 4 plates, it's going to run you about $124, right? This is with a level 4 plate. Pretty affordable, right? It looks like it comes with 2 plates and the vest itself, right? They literally have but they're showing that this is not airsoft. They're showing the vest withstanding penetration by a certain level of round. So, proving that this is the real deal, so to speak. But you can see just how much money is changing hands in these sort of transactions. And that doesn't even account for the fact that there may be more equipment that also hasn't been disclosed, right? So all this to say, I think it's fair to assess that while for a long time I thought this China supplying Russia in secret, I thought this was kind of a conspiracy theory. I hadn't seen any really good evidence of it. I hadn't seen Russian soldiers showing Chinese-made gear. So when I look and see that this is now happening, again, dual use equipment, there's also some rumors, right, that China is actually selling hunting rifles to Russia. And Politico, again, also reporting on this as of even as early as March, right? The Russian company Techrim has purchased a hunting rifles called the CQA. Though these hunting rifles also are popular with paramilitary police in China and the Philippine, South Sudanese, and Paraguayan armed forces. As you can see, this is a very unique style of hunting rifle, guys. But nonetheless, Russia has reportedly purchased a large number of these, obviously to hunt the numerous boar all around the rural regions of Russia, despite Russia's prohibition on large capacity magazines by civilians. All right. And of course, drone parts and Chinese body armor. So I think there's a lot of evidence that at least some Russian forces, maybe even a lot of Russian forces, are being equipped by China. And that while this is itself a dangerous precedent for China to set, I think it runs the risk that right now it sounds like these are Chinese companies willing to make money at a small scale. Just bear in mind, even if they were paying full price for that body armor sets, right? It's, we can look at the math here real quick. You're talking about, we said it was $124. Oop, I can type $124 times, let's say they ordered 100,000 units. We're looking at a $12 million purchase. That pales in comparison to the hundreds of millions of dollars of aid or billions of dollars of aid provided to Ukraine. Nonetheless, you run the risk of exposing China and sort of forcing them into Russia's orbit, right? In for a penny, in for a pound, as the saying goes. I think that's the biggest danger from all this. It may also explain, in part, Russian forces' increased survivability in the face of Ukraine's offensive. Anyway, guys, that's all I had for you. As always, thank you so much to the Colonel tier members of CombatVetNews.com, and thank you to our Lieutenant tier members. We really couldn't do this without you guys. I appreciate you so much, and I will see you in the next one.